welcome to the Melancholy Guy. Talks ethical non-monogamy. This is a companion podcast to my Tumblr blog, The Melancholy Guy, daring to be black, open, and free. The adventures of a divorced, open, polyamorous African American male. I am the Melancholy Guy, Calvin, or CPJR if you know me. And today I definitely believe that change I must or die I will. My blog can be found at melancholyguy.tumblr.com. So this show is basically broken up into three parts. Past, the Polycule speaks. Present, what's up with the Polycule. Future, accepting the change. And welcome to the Melancholy Guy. This is episode 33, and I'm recording this on a Friday, so I am on time. I've been on time lately, as many of you may know, the ones that listen on a regular basis, because I'm not working right now. But I may have some good news about that today, and hopefully you'll hear about that in the next podcast. I'm also recording this on June 8th, 2018. Today we just heard that Anthony Bourdain committed suicide at 61, and that truly hit me hard. I am a fan of Anthony Bourdain and his shows. I haven't read his books yet, but I will now. I know that I just identify with his love of life, eating, traveling, and just experiencing different cultures around the world. And his writing style really appealed to me. I've seen him on TV, interviews, podcasts, and he always seemed to be very open and genuine about his life and experiences. Cooking, I love cooking also, but he did share. Addiction also is a part of his history, and I identify with that since it's a part of mine too. I know that it's a struggle always. It kind of never leaves you. Also with that, I've had to deal with like really depressing moments and some depression in my life, so it's with great, it's hard to lose someone like that. I look forward to his shows. I'm going to be binging no reservations. I love that show, and it's such a sad time and such a loss. If you're feeling suicidal, reach out. People need to check on each other. That's what community is all about. And if you know, ethical non-monogamy for me is community. So I'm gonna get into the show. This is now Talks Ethical Non-Monogamy. I do share out of my blog, which I'm going to do today. But because I'm sharing my journey, right? I'm now polyamorous. I did start out my ethical non-monogamous journey as identifying as polyamorous. Kind of knew I always was open and a bit different, but never really identified with monogamy. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna talk about something that I read a blog entry last week, and the blog entry ended with what is your monogamous vision, with a question mark. And that struck me as strange, especially when I read it. And I wrote that back in like 2013, in the beginning of 2013, and that was something that if you were ever in the Facebook groups, we used to ask each other that a lot. Like, what do you see as your non-monogamous vision? How do you see yourself living? And now I look back at that and I'm like, why would you ask? I mean, because we have a pretty good idea what monogamy looks like, I guess, right? So we're always, as we're opening our lives and evolving into this, non-monogamous life, I think we just wanted to know, like, how do we see it? And I think a lot of people, were saying that, one or two people, triad, LV, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, now I'm like, I don't have a non-monogamous vision. I see community, I see polycules, I see tribes. I see as many people in my life and much love in my life as possible, based on those relationships. And I don't know how those relationships are going to roll out or develop, or how they're going to look. So I can't have for myself a non-monogamous vision, not totally and completely, because I'm open to love, right? I'm open to let love develop, and as it does, as it will. So it's sort of like I can't even say the number of people or what their titles would be or anything like that, because I don't have many examples of different non-monogamous configurations or polycules. So that's one reason for doing this show, is to show how people from the polycule talk and share their stories. So with that, I'm gonna read a blog entry. It's a long blog entry, and it's called "A Blast from Our Swinger Past." And I'm gonna read this entry because I was gonna say it's not a swinging episode, but this person that I'm talking about was the woman from our first couple, our couple. And if you listen to, I should have pulled that episode reference, but I talked about our first couple, our first time going out, our first time swinging, and we just kept a relationship with them through the entire time that we were swinging. But we did lose contact with them towards the end. And then we got this call. My wife got a call from Lydia, who was the wife at the time. She wasn't the wife at first, but the woman partner. So I wrote this on, I think, January 2013. So I'm going to read this just to show why I'm not swinging today, or why I'm kind of leery of swingers. A blast from our swinger past. I feel that we are now starting to get some confirmation about the new path in our non-monogamy. We are starting to get messages and calls from people that we play with in our swinger life. We thought we knew them, we had sex with them, but now we are starting to find out that we did not know them or their truth. So the wife got a call last night from the wife of our first swinger couple, Lydia. We have not heard anything from them for over a year. So that was 2011. Wow. So we didn't hear from them at all in 2012. They were really our first and best couple from our time as swingers. The wife definitely had fond feelings for them, Lydia and Leo, which is something very rare and special to me when it happens. We had great and intimate times with them, visited each other's homes, and even attended his birthday party with both of their extended families in attendance. We assumed that we had some sort of connection. Then they simply disappeared. No return calls, unanswered emails, nothing. Now, this was not the first time this happened, but this was our couple. I think we were both hurt a little. I guess the purpose of the phone call was for some closure. She wanted to give the wife the 411 on her current life. Our couple is getting divorced. It seems that their marriage was not as solid as we were led to believe. And it also seems that, from what I can tell, Lydia's entrance into the life was her last-ditch effort to save their marriage. The plan did not work for them. Now, after much drama, STI, and her hurt feelings, they are in the final stages of splitting up. And Lydia is returning to the church. And I have to say, good for her. Do whatever it takes to get some peace. Situations like this have to be avoided for us in the future. We are taking our time, getting to know our potentials as much as possible before the clothes come off. No more disappearing partners for us, although I know all drama can't be afforded. I don't believe time will lessen the chance of hurt feelings and wasted time. How do you feel when partners just disappear without any explanation? And I know now we call that ghosting. I've been guilty of ghosting, so I feel it sucks. So I'm not going to do it anymore. But I will take more time building relationships because ghosting is possible. It's something. So from that, it's interesting because they did get divorced, and I think something that I forgot that all this happened in 2011 before 2012. So our total experience of swinging was about a year and some months, maybe a year and a half, and then we were done. Now this says that we're still looking. I think we were still posted, but we never. I don't think we ever swung again after this post. Not together. And actually, no, we didn't do any swinging events. We were pretty much done with that and headed for a divorce, as I've said before. Um, but I think I knew that I was headed into polyamory because I was going, deeper and deeper into the Facebook groups and meeting people and going through all my type of changes. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into the next section of the show. The Polycule speaks. I have an interesting interview or a chance to speak with Kimberly. My interest, my love right now, the one love that I have, and we talked about asked her the three questions, and she gave me her answers, and it's good to hear her story. And I'll come back after the story and just talk about what it is that I got from it. It's a very interesting conversation. She's a very interesting person, very open, and she's all about love. She's actually an ordained minister, which I find interesting. She's pansexual, and it's a great conversation to actually hear someone from the Polycule. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring that up. Hey, welcome to the Polycule Speaks. Right now, I'm going to bring on Kimberly to be the first guest that's going to speak from the Polycule, and we're going to hear her story today. You actually heard Kimberly last week. Hey, say hello, Kimberly.
Hey, hi everybody. Good to be back.
Great. It's also good to have you back. So, we're going to hear your story today. I think for me, it's going to be the first time hearing the complete story. I know parts of it, but not all of it. So, it's going to be interesting to me also to hear about your ethical non-monogamy. So, we're going to do three questions, okay? And the first question is going to be, what do you call your ethical non-monogamy?
I call my ethical non-monogamy polyamory. Now, I know that doesn't offer a lot of clarification because
Mm-hmm.
people see polyamory as various identities and philosophies. But when I say polyamorous, which I'm sure drives all the linguistics crazy because you're mixing Greek and Latin, but we're going to stay with that term just for the sake of commonality. When I say polyamorous, I mean that I feel like I am called to honor each relationship as it presents itself and to not try to manage it in any way. So, polyamory for me is about honoring connection, however that connection manifests. So, primarily, that's my polyamory. And then, secondarily, for me, which is a very close second, it means that I would never try to manage anyone's heart, mind, or body. And I will not grant permission to anyone to control my heart, mind, or body. So as long as it fits within either of those subcategories, then that's polyamory for me.
Okay. So, one more question on that before we move along. What do you mean by manage or control one's heart, mind, or body?
Um, I mean, like, say to you, you should or should not feel this way, think this way, share this way with any other human.
Okay. So as far as someone else's relationships and things like
Yes,
that. Okay.
yes,
Egalitarian, you say?
definitely egalitarian.
Okay. All right. Cool. So,
Egalitarian in the sense of, I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't relationships that take priority over relationships, but I'm saying that I make designations.
okay. Got you. So non-hierarchical. All
Mhm.
right. So, how did you come to that name, conclusion, or description? So, how did you come about discovering polyamory or discovering that you are polyamorous?
Well, I think that the first time I discovered the term was in my early 20s. And I heard it and I thought, oh, that makes perfect sense. I've never, I can remember back to my first crush, my first male crush that I had on a male. He actually had a crush on my older cousin, and I had a crush on him, and his little brother had a crush on me, and my little cousin had a crush on him. So whenever we would play hide and go seek, it never worked out because wherever my crush went, of course, he was following my older cousin and everybody was following everybody. But I remember never feeling like that was a big deal. Like I didn't really care. It didn't bother me that he wanted to be with her or was, had a crush on her. It was just, I just had a crush on him. And so when I became introduced to the term in my early 20s, it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like welcome home. It was like a reacquaintance with a part of me that had kind of been distanced or, cast away somewhere. And we were just kind of coming back together.
Mm-hmm. So, very right from the beginning, you saying that from your early 20s, you knew you were polyamorous. There
Correct.
was no other. So, how did you practice that? I'm gonna have to talk to you about this bit. So, how did you practice? How did that manifest in your life?
Well, it didn't. It only manifested um, theoretically and in my heart, but I also grew up in a very religious context. And so the idea of relationships at all um, was just all skewed by that. And monogamy, like one of the big things about monogamy that I never understood, and so this is something that polyamory gifted me with over time, is I never understood why I couldn't be friends with men who were married. Like I just didn't understand that. I just kept thinking, well, what does him being married have to do with us being friends? you know, or if a girl would get married and be like, well, now she can't hang out like she used to, because she's married now. And I'd be like, well, why can't she? It just things that don't seem logical to me are very perplexing, and I could not understand it. One way that I guess it played out that it helped me is I developed a friendship, and it was with a heterosexual woman who was married to a man. Obviously, she's heterosexual. I guess she was married to a man, and
Well, it might not be. She
right.
doesn't. Right. She
And
wasn't bisexual.
we actually would meet weekly for coffee and Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and her husband would show up sometimes unexpected at our at our coffee time, and what I would say is mark his territory.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember having a conversation with him saying, like, this is my time, like I'm not trying, like, this is our relationship. And if we could have our time in our relationship, just like if you and I go out for coffee, then it's our time, but when you just bombard, and he was just, it just, now I still think he's polyamorous to this day, but just never, grew the balls to live that way. But I remember talking with a friend of mine at that time about polyamory and how I wish that more people knew about it and understood it so that they could understand that just because I don't have a sexual relationship with this person, this woman, we still love one another. It's still a very crucial relationship in both of our lives. And I want people to respect it as such. So
Mm-hmm.
it didn't manifest like romantically until in my later 20s. And still then I didn't know how to manifest it. Like I've been married twice. So when I got married the first time, it was totally because that was the proper thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
because I had not yet been licensed or ordained as a clergy, but that was the, assumed trajectory. And I was already in a relationship with a woman. And so the way to make this right was to get married. and but even in that marriage, like my wife knew I wasn't monogamous. Like that wasn't my mindset.
The
Like I
first
don't even,
marriage?
yes,
Okay.
yes. She knew that wasn't my mindset. We did not behave in that way. We had a very open relationship. Open meaning we talked and discussed everything. Um, but I was only, I guess you would say, out to like my wife and my closest friends.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So it didn't manifest very well until my second marriage, and it didn't manifest well then.
Mm-hmm.
but but that's when I just was like, this is who I am, and I don't have any closets, and so that's when it just became a normal part of my conversation and my interaction. And so by that I mean, if I would be with people and they would make the general heterosexist assumptions and things, or monogamous assumptions, I would just say, well, not everybody is in a monogamous relationship, or da da. So it really began well before I had any polyamorous relationships where outside people to see. It just became a natural part of my language.
So, in either one of your marriages, you 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 actually um, told them you were polyamorous prior to, or non-monogamous prior to getting married?
I don't know if I told my first wife that, but for instance, my first wife, her one of her bridesmaids was the love of her life. Her
Okay.
name was Julie. Okay. And I could tell she loved her so. And so I was always encouraging her, well, why don't you go and, like she'd be having a bad day at work. And I would say, well, call Julie and see if you guys can meet for lunch, or, something going on, or why don't you see if you and Julie can go out? And that was very strange for her. And so once we were planning the wedding and she was trying to determine her bridesmaids, I was like, well, don't you want Julie to be with you? And everybody just thought that was the most ridiculous thing in the world. Like, why would, you have her? Because it was apparent she was the love of her life,
Okay.
and Julie had been unfaithful and it had really broken her heart. So she, the trust was breached and they couldn't ever be together romantically, but they still love one another. So I don't think I used the words I'm polyamorous, but I definitely behaved in a polyamorous manner. Now with my second wife, yeah, that was apparent when we met. She knew I wasn't polyamorous
Was
before
she?
we started dating. No, she was not polyamorous. She could she at the time would have probably described herself as ethically non-monogamous,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely not polyamorous. For
Okay.
her, it was initially, I think it was much more palatable to think about just having a sexual encounter with someone as long as there was no love involved, no real
Okay.
connection. Yeah.
Okay. So, in either of your marriages, was polyamory or you being polyamorous, was this ever an issue?
It was an issue in both. Well, it was more of a yes. In my first marriage, actually, my wife and I were involved in a polyamorous relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You would not call it polyamorous; you would call it polyfidelity. We were involved in an ethically non-monogamous relationship.
You got me straight on that. I would call it polyamory. I'm over that
um,
one now.
and it became an issue because, again, I don't think that my first wife was ready for me to fall in love with anybody. Like, I don't think
Mm.
that was something she had ever really considered. And so when she saw that happening, it just freaked her out. Um, and so then it was like, okay, well, then all of us can be in relationship together. And
Oh,
so
it was a
that was,
triad.
yeah, but it wasn't, though. It was not like literally I had a relationship with her and she had a relationship with her.
It was a V.
More so,
Okay.
yes. But it was a closed V. because
Yeah,
then obviously my wife and I had a relationship together, And
that's
so
okay.
we would do things occasionally, the three of us, but it was definitely not.
When you say do things, what does that mean?
I
Go
mean,
shopping?
social
Okay,
things.
shopping.
Like if my family was having a function,
Okay,
they would both come, or if there was things like that, social things.
okay. No threesomes.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right. We all know that threesomes are not the goal of polyamory, so that's cool. I don't know
No,
why. That was stupid. I'm sorry.
no problem.
All right. So do you? I'm gonna ask one more question before moving on. I think I just want to dig deep a little bit. So if so I noticed you both your partners were sort of ethical non-monogamous,
Hmm.
right? So do you think it would have been? Oh, I can't say would be different. So now when you're thinking about relationships, and that's probably going to lead us right into the next question. When you're thinking about relationships, do you only try to date in the, the polyamorous pool?
No, I don't,
Mm.
because for me that's not polyamory. Because polyamory for me is what is honoring each connection as it presents itself. So if I find myself
You just
connected,
gave polyamory a meaning, some words. Polyamory is simply many loves, but okay.
well, yeah, many loves, and so I don't get to determine who those loves are. And so if I restrict myself to a certain pool, then I'm saying, well, I'm not open to having a love out of this pool. So it doesn't fit into my definition.
Okay. That interesting. So you're open to trying to convert or going through all the drama of not drama, but just the challenges of trying to form a relationship with someone who may not be aware of polyamory, may not be quite accepting of polyamory, um, maybe
Not, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
or maybe even hostile to non-monogamy.
No, 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 no. Because
Not
I don't have
hostile, or
there's no
just
connection there. There's
okay.
no. So if you and I meet and you're monogamous, and
Mm-hmm.
let's say we meet in some natural setting at the gas station, at happy hour, at
Mm-hmm.
the hookah bar, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and we hit it off and we're laughing and having a good time and we exchange numbers, and then we're talking the next day. Then the next day I'm saying, hey, I'm polyamorous. If they don't know what that is, then I give them my definitions,
Okay.
and then they have an opportunity to say, well, okay, well, I'm not down with that, or well, I don't really know how I feel about sharing. Like I've had men in particular say, well, I don't really know how I feel about sharing, but I don't want to stop seeing you right now. And I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine, but I
Mm-hmm.
just need you to understand that that's not going to dictate my behavior. You know,
So, have you had success in dating people who are new to
sure,
or even monogamous?
sure. How do you define
I
success?
don't know. You,
Yes,
your definition of success.
yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My longest relationship, since my separation and subsequent divorce, was with a ethically non-monogamous person, but who was not polyamorous.
Mm-hmm.
But that relationship transitioned out of a sexual relationship that had nothing to do with me, the fact that I was polyamorous.
Okay. I think I neglected to do something. I think you mentioned your two wives, so I didn't ask you your sexual orientation for the
I
people who may be
identify,
confused.
I identify as pansexual.
Pansexual. Okay. Cool. I like pans.
A lot of
Very
space.
deep.
That's why it's
I wish I
pan.
was pansexual, but don't flow that way. That
See?
energy must be great, like just to take, you know what I'm saying? To be able
Yeah,
to just float through energy and be attracted to like just energy,
yeah.
regardless of genitalia.
It is because creative people can find something to do with any genitalia.
Exactly, exactly. I think it's a beautiful thing. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the last question, and you've been great so far. Thank you. What does that look like today? So, what does your uh, polyamory look like today?
One huge difference today is before I got married, before I married my second wife, during our premarital counseling, she said to me, I want you to be monogamous.
Mm.
And I said, I appreciate you wanting that. You could also want me to be white, and that's not going to happen. You could want me to be male,
Mm.
and outside of some fun role play, that's not going to happen. And so at the time, though, I was in graduate school, and it was very stressful. And what I said is, I did not compromise. Like, so this takes me kind of back to question one. Like, there are a lot of there's a major tenet of relationship anarchy where sexual romantic relationships do not, you know, place higher than platonic relationships.
Equal. They're equal, right?
Yes. And
Or viewed
so,
as equal. Yeah.
exactly. And so that is definitely the case for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have non-sexual, non-romantic relationships that I'll cut a Negro over, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna, you're not gonna, um, but so when she made that comment, I was in graduate school and really stressed, and I had already set my boundary and said I'm not going to forfeit any of my relationships. But at the time, I did not have any other romantic or sexual relationships, and so the agreement was that I would tell her when I formed a new sexual and or romantic relationship. And this is one thing that I'm really grateful to polyamory for, is because if you're going to do it with any level of success and integrity, you really have to get yourself to a healthy space, because you have to become aware of your shit and your baggage and your triggers and how you manage them so that you can inform your partners how to do that. And so I was just so codependent at the time. I kept putting off relationships because I was like, oh, it'll kill her. She'll be dead. She's not going to make it. And so as a result, then my resentment just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. So how that informs my polyamory today. My
Mm-hmm.
polyamory today is that I will explore any connection that presents itself to me, but I will not. If you just tell me I don't want you to be in other relationships, then that means that we are not compatible. And so I'm not going to dilly dally back and forth and go through, like I'm all about covenant.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's why I can't identify as a relationship anarchist, because I need covenant. I need it for comfort. I need it to fully express myself. But you're making me forget my train of thought looking like
Because
that.
I'm confused. I really am. You said relationship anarchy and covenant. I mean, like you can't be relationship anarchists because of covenant, meaning that relationship anarchists can't have covenant.
It's not that relationship anarchists can't, but in my limited experience with folks who identify that way and the limited amount of reading that I've done about it, there seems to be a sort of uh, fundamental skepticism about any type of compromise. Like, if you have to compromise to be in this relationship, then that doesn't work. I'm not, and for me, for adults, life is all about compromise. Like only a kid thinks they can just have everything all the time, you know.
I
So,
think
and
you're
that
reading
might
into
not
it.
be how I'm not saying everyone who identifies as RA is that way, but in my experience, there's just this real visceral reaction to compromise. And because if you do that, then you set this expectation for this. And it's like, well, you know, in covenant, like the expectation is you keep the covenant, but if you don't like the covenant, so I won't enter into covenant. I won't enter into relationship with people who don't understand, and they don't even have to understand, that's the wrong word, who don't embrace that I literally am going to manage my own mind, body, and heart. And if you say that that's not going to work for you, then I'm not going to invest my energy into that.
Okay, I guess I should also give another disclaimer. I guess Kim and I are in a relationship, so that's why if I'm laughing at some things, there's some things we probably discussed.
We have. Oh, I was gonna say discuss relationship, and I guess
Yeah,
briefly.
we have had a couple discussions on relationship ranking,
I thought we just had
and
one, but
but that thing about hmm. Okay, so that was great. So basically today your polyamory looks like you're just open to connections and still exploring um, different possibilities, right?
yes, it
As long
also.
as someone accepts you in your
Mhm,
polyamory, because
correct.
monogamy is not an option.
Monogamy, is it an option for me to be in a relationship, a romantic sexual relationship with only one person? Definitely. Because it's not, I don't have a compulsion to have to be in multiple relationships. Like, so would I be in a relationship where people would look at that relationship and say, oh, she's monogamous? Sure, that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more about respecting my humanity, and for me that means not trying to manage me and understanding that I'm going to honor connections as they present themselves more than it is I got to have so many relationships. So in that instance, no, monogamy is not an option for me,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Okay.
could very well be in a relationship that people would classify as monogamous.
Okay. Um, anything? Would you consider anything closed, like a polyphy situation?
As an adult, I try to never say never. Like, I feel like, words extreme, always, never, hate, those, typically aren't in my vocabulary. So I would never say never,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know.
Okay.
I can't. I mean, today I am healthy and young, and you know, I today no, but tomorrow who knows? you know,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Great. I want to thank you for that. For your questions and for sharing your story. It was great.
My pleasure.
Um, thank you for being on the Melancholy Guy. So, where can people find you? You want to give out any shout outs, information about anything you have going on, upcoming?
So I am about 87 to 90% certain that I will be starting a podcast. There's a Facebook page called Enlightened Emergence, and
Mm-hmm.
basically it is a group, it is a community for folks who seek spiritual nurture and community, minus the dogma and doctrine and bullshit that people are accustomed to. So there's a Facebook page, Enlightened Emergence, and hopefully um, sometime in the beginning of July, that first podcast will be available.
What's the date again?
I'm
So I can
hoping
write it
that
down.
I don't know. I'm hoping it'll be available the first during sometime during the first week of July. And I want
Okay.
it to be interactive. So if
Uh-huh.
anybody goes to the Enlightened Emergence page and wants to leave a question or a topic or a rant or whatever, leave it, or private message or whatever, because I don't want it to just be me sitting up lost in my head and talking, but I really wanted it to be a practical communal way for folks of consciousness and enlightenment to grow spiritually together.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Great. Thank
Great.
you. It's been fun. I'm
All
not,
right.
I
Who's the
wasn't.
producer of that podcast? Never mind. Just joking. Um, well, thank you very much, Kimberly, and peace and namaste. And I'm sure we'll see you on the Melancholy Guy again. All
Great.
right.
Thanks so much. All right. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Hey, so yeah, that was a great interview, right? Kim is an interesting person, and I think actually from talking to her and knowing her, from what I got from her talking, from her story, was basically, and that's the title of the show, is "This Is Who I Am." And I think that it's interesting when you're with people, because I've been with people for like over 5 years, through Facebook and stuff like that. And it seems that the more people, the more that people mature or develop or evolve into the lifestyle, they always get to that. They seem to me to always get to the point of this is who I am. Um, uh, After a lot of like sometimes a lot of hurt and stuff like that, people a little learn how to slow down. But then they just get to this is who I am. I'm just open to love and seeing how it evolves and develops. So yeah, that was an interesting interview and nice to hear from her. Like I said, you'll probably hear from her again. She's definitely part of my Polycule and my life, and I'm grateful for her. She's been around for a minute, I think a couple years, and that's how she's the kind of polyamorous person that I really just love to be connected to. She knows how to hold space. She knows how to allow for growth, and she definitely speaks her truth when she needs to speak her truth. So surround yourself with people like that, man, and you'll definitely grow. You'll definitely be loved, and you'll definitely learn how to love. And so that was a great interview. And one thing I also wanted to say that from her, um, I'm sorry, interview. I'm expecting a call at 2:30. I'm from a recruiter with some good news, hopefully. But the interesting thing that I got from her, her talk, her story was that what I take away from it is, for me, polyamory is about learning how to accept love and just not have to prioritize it. You understand what I'm saying? Sort of like remove. If you would take all your relationships, right, and remove sex, who would you still keep in your life and who would you dispose of? Or who would you let go? It seems that we prioritize the sexual relationships over the other connections, just friends. You know what I'm saying? Like people, I think people were asking me always, or a couple people were asking me about titles, and I'm working on a blog entry for this about because they're seeing me and Kim together. They're asking me about who is she? Like what do you guys? Are you guys an item? Things like that, and I'm like, I don't know. Well, I'll call it love. She's a love now. But I'm like, I have to give it a title because I have to give it. Once I give it a title, this is me thinking. Then it comes with expectations, and it comes with a trajectory. What are we doing? Like we should be doing this at this point, and this at this point, instead of just being together. And I guess all that's based on, I guess, how often we are seen together. Um, if we're having sex or not. Like this. You have to define relationships. So one thing, people know how to take us being together, and then people know how to treat us, I guess, and things like that. So it's it's interesting to me that for me, in my polyamorous journey in life right now, I try to not elevate a relationship over another relationship just because there's sex involved. Um, so that's part of the journey right now, and so I'm going to talk about just a few minutes because I think it's going to run long on this podcast because of the new section. But I want to talk about the present. What's up with the Polycule? It's just me and and Kim. Uh, she's a love. That's the title that I think I'm comfortable with, and it kind of makes sense. Um, so I think that's a title that and word that we hear used a lot in the community. People are talking about their loves or coming to town, have loves in town, and that's sort of. open to interpretation as to exactly what that relationship is, other than I know that I love her, she loves me, we love each other, and that's our relationship. So I think that's a good place to be. And that's my polycule, and I don't know. We'll see. I'm going on interviews. I've had a second interview, and I'll get a call today. So it's I'm anxiously awaiting what I'm going to hear, because I am definitely ready to go back to work, to get back moving forward, and I'm ready to get started on my next business adventure, um, like grinding. So that's basically what's up with the polycule, and the future. Accepting the change is all about where we're going to go. And the one thing I looked at is my past, and like these people that I've met, or people that I've met, were supposed to be part of my polycule, and I wasn't healthy, and I kind of used to want to go back, and like resurrect those, reconnect with those people, and things like that. And it's not that I don't want to still go back and do that, but I have to recognize that they've changed, I've changed. Whatever that was in the past may not be the same. So I had to take my eyes off the past and start just looking forward. You know what I'm saying? And at one point, I was like, I should delete all my Facebook friends. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, nah. I just got to stop looking at these people as someone who they were. You know what I mean? I have to look at them now, who they are and who I am, and what's up with the future. At this point, I don't know. We'll see. And just start building, building the relationships and the polycule going forward. And that's basically where I am now, and it's a sweet spot. I definitely am healthier with that outlook, and I'm not spending time in the past. I'm looking forward, at this point. So that's basically it. So next week we have another guest, episode 34. I'm gonna be talking to someone I've known, Kay, and she's gonna talk about her story from the polycule. So looking forward to that, and you guys have a good week if you're listening. If you're not, I can be found on Tumblr, Melancholy Guy. I can be found on Instagram. I think the Melancholy Guy, or the Melancholy Guy podcast. On Facebook, Melancholy Guy. So basically, I am the Melancholy Guy, and if you find me on any of those sites or social media spaces, I'm talking about ethical non-monogamy, some politics. Also, I have a group we're trying to pump up, practical polyamory for people of color. And if you're interested in talking about just everyday polyamory on in a vetted environment, with people who have been in this lifestyle for a while and are not curious, we basically are living polyamorously, ethically, non-monogamously. We're not trying it. It's a done deal with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this out, and always remember to love and respect yourself first, and everything else will take care of itself. Peace and namaste.